This is Media Break. You give us 3 minutes, and we'll give you the world.
Good morning. I'm Casey Wong with Jess Perkins. Top story, Pretoria. The threat of nuclear confrontation in South Africa escalated today when the ruling white military government of that besieged city-state unveiled a French-made neutron bomb and affirmed its willingness to use the 3 mega...
We live in a twilight world. Today's topic, the talking head. Of course, we are going to look at some Victorian stage magic and then sort of cross-reference it, compare it, use it as a metaphor for what's going on right now in modern times, yeah? The false reality we live in, which is being manipulated and moved around via the power of illusion. Stage magic, stage illusion, and then magic with a K, yeah? What exists within the theatre of our mind being created in the real physical world. Of course, it all relates. It's all illusion warfare, isn't it? So anyway, yeah, this is the book we're referencing. Magic, Stage Illusions and Scientific Diversions, including Trick Photography by Albert A. Hopkins, published in 1897. Over 100 years ago, yeah? And obviously Albert A. Hopkins probably spent the 20 years before it was actually published writing the book. So good old-fashioned Victorian stage magic. Let's read what it says here about this magic trick in particular, the talking head. Probably the most common of all the illusions which depend upon mirrors is the talking head upon a table. The illustration is almost self-explanatory. The apparatus consists only of a mirror fixed to the side legs of the table. The mirror hides the body of the girl, who is on her knees and seated on a small stool, and reflects a straw which covers the floor as to make it appear continuous under the table. Likewise, it reflects the front leg of the table so as to make it appear an equal distance from the other side, and thus produce the illusion of a fourth leg. So here's the image here, pretty self-explanatory. There's the head on the table. You can actually see from the side she's behind a mirror. The mirror, of course, is reflecting this, making it look continuous. Let's carry on reading. It also reflects the end of the red fabric hanging in front of the table and thus makes it appear to hang down from behind. The visitor stands only a few inches away from the table and head. Such proximity of the spectator and the actor would seem to favour the discovery of the trick. But on the contrary, it is indispensable to its success. So yeah, actually standing closer helps, right? Because of the angle your eyes would be at, looking down, it's better to be closer. If you're a lot further away, it might not work. Especially if it was on a stage and you were perhaps a slight bit lower, right? Because you might see your own reflection looking back. So the point there is, in this particular trick, you've got to be up close to it. But anyway, yeah, very simple trick, isn't it? Once again, using mirrors, the magician's go-to, I don't want to call a mirror at all. I don't know what you call it. Object. Yeah, the mirror. I mean, what an amazing piece of... Yeah, again, how do you describe a mirror? Would you call it an object? A technology? It's just a reflection, yeah? It's something that exists in our reality. Shiny surfaces reflect that which is in front of them. And I remember there was a craze about 2 or 3 years ago where people were doing that thing where they were holding an object onto a mirror and then, they were covering that square and then holding an object behind like the bit of tissue or a bit of paper, and they were saying, like, how does the mirror know, right? To me, that's pretty stupid because a mirror just reflects what's in front of it. But nevertheless, the fact that it's having that much power over people, this concept of a reflection, a mirror, I still think it's very impressive how much, even to this day, the mirror kind of baffles people. So you can see why a magician would use a mirror. Anyway, of course, in modern day times, when we talk of a talking head, we think of these guys, right? The news anchor, the news reporter, which is just a talking head, usually on a TV screen, or the more modern version of a TV screen, a black mirror, a smartphone, a laptop, a PC, right? A talking head is where I come from, to call someone a talking head is a negative thing. A derogatory term. He's just a talking head. It kind of means that they are just a talking head that appears on a screen. They're not really an expert outside of the screen. And most of the time they are just regurgitating or parroting a script or a narrative that has been given to them. Or they're just reading a script or a teleprompter and nothing else. So for example, this talking head might be talking about the war that's going on somewhere. But what they're talking about in regards to the war is on a teleprompter, it's on a script. This person has never been to a war zone. They've never been in the military. They don't know how rifles work. They don't know how ballistic missiles work. They don't know how any of the things they're talking about actually work. Yet they're talking there with confidence on the screen. They are a talking head. So that's my connection, I mean, this is not the greatest parallel I've drawn. It's more the term talking head, isn't it? As opposed to the magic trick itself. But nevertheless, most of the time when we see a talking head, well, pretty much all of the time we see a talking head, it's on a mirror of some kind. Remember, your smartphone is a TV. Which also we call a black mirror. So a talking head doesn't have a body on a black mirror. Here's a mirror with a head on top of it. Not the greatest connection I've made, but you get the point, The talking head. Now, in regards to like the modern day and why this is a problem, at the end of the day, these talking heads, they are putting, it's like the term is television, They are telling people a vision. They're putting ideas into the theatre of the mind of the audience. And of course, it will cut to a load of images. Prime example, when it comes to like a war zone, they'll be saying a load of bullshit about bombs have dropped here, bombs have dropped there. Then it'll cut to bombs dropping. People watch this and they think it's real. But once again, it's just images. It's just pixels on a screen. Illusions. Now, if we move over to magic with a K, occult magic, thought becomes belief, belief becomes reality. The idea that we can picture something in our minds, something in our imagination, and then manifest it in the real world, such as invention, creation, whatever, music, art, poetry. We picture it in our mind first, in the theatre of our mind, and then we pull it out from the theatre of our mind into reality. This is what we mean when we talk about magic with a K. Which is how this reality works, by the way, and the people behind the curtains know this. They're trained. That's why it's a cult. It's hidden. They are hiding this from you. And that's why they're giving you crap like the atheist mindset or the Abrahamic mindset. While they themselves understand that this reality can be maneuvered and manipulated by getting the masses to believe in something. So going back to the talking head, yeah, who is nothing but pixels on a black mirror, they are essentially telling a vision to the masses, aren't they? They're talking about war or pandemics or oil shortages or famine or whatever, right? And of course, along with what they're telling you, the vision they're telling you, they will obviously bring other pixels with them, backing up the illusion that they are presenting. Now, the problem is, the masses watch this. Hundreds, thousands, millions, billions watch this. And even though it's not true, yeah, it's somewhat true, but it's mostly an illusion, a deceptive perception, they picture it in the theatre of their mind. Yeah? And then once again, we go back to magic. If people picture it in the theatre of their mind, it then has the ability to manifest. Now you tell me, yeah, if I want something to be manifested, conjured into reality, I'm pretty sure I'm going to have more success if I get millions and billions of people to picture in the theatre of their mind the reality I want to exist. I'm pretty sure it's going to have a more probability of being conjured and created than, say, no one picturing it in their mind other than me. Does that make sense? So think about it like this, yeah? Here's another way to put it. I can't do illusion warfare on myself. It doesn't work. I can't... The example I always use is the king, right? I can't convince myself that I'm the king and then I become the king. It's not going to work. But if I convince 1,000 people in a village that I'm a king and they believe it, I then become the king. Yeah? Because they believe it. So you can't really do illusion warfare on yourself. It's about tricking the masses and the others into believing a reality that doesn't exist, but because they believe it, it becomes true. And that's how a king is a king, because people believe he's a king. Because they believe he's a king, they treat him like a king. They behave like he's the king, therefore he is now the king. And all he's doing is wearing a costume. Yeah? He's wearing a crown and he's holding a scepter and he's got like some sort of robe on. And the rest is theatricality and a story that goes along with it. And he might recruit a few actors to back up that he is a king. But essentially he arrives in a village. If he can convince the thousands of people in that village that he is a king, then he becomes the king. So the point I'm trying to make here is with the talking heads on a Black Mirror, yeah, they are helping or they assist in the overall magic of putting thoughts and beliefs into the theatre of the mind of the masses, and then it manifests into reality. Prime example is 9/11. Yeah? So yes, they really did drop the two towers in New York. How they did it is irrelevant. Was it actual planes? Was it holograms? Was it direct energy weapon? Was it remote control planes? It doesn't matter. Yeah? But it created the illusion that the Western world was under attack. Yeah? From cave-dwelling Islamic extremists. And this helped, or this conjured, the war in Iraq, the war in Afghanistan, the war on terror, which lasted 20 years. Once again, 9/11 is 20. The war on terror lasted 20 years. Yeah? And think, right, when they dropped them two towers, pretty much everywhere around the world showed this on the TV screens. Smartphones and laptops weren't really around in those days. It was more a TV-based reality, like the good old-fashioned box TV with a big arse on it. But I remember my experience, I think I was in like midway through high school, they wheeled in a TV into our classroom. Lessons were stopped and they made us children watch on loop the news report of planes flying into the Twin Towers in New York. And by the way, the younger humans are, the more magical they are. So making young people watch this event has a far greater conjuring, manifesting power than adults. As we get older, we lose our magic in that sense. So that's why I call it illusion warfare, because these illusions that are being pushed on us, that we are being deceived into believing, they're weaponized against our human experience, aren't they? Yeah? It's weaponized against the natural order of things. Us being in nature with the sunshine above us is how it should be, right? That's how reality is without all of this theatricality and deception and smoke and mirrors. If we removed all that, it would just be us in the forest or at the beach with the sun shining upon us with our feet on the ground. Yeah? All of these illusions, when you think about it, are weaponized against us. I can't really think of a good illusion that is working for us, really, at this moment in time. But anyway, one more thing I do have to say, and this is an important one, is the alternative media. Yeah, this is the final thing I'm going to talk about. The alternative media make out as if they are kind of against or talking more about truth than the mainstream media, than the legacy media, than the establishment media. But when we think about it in this aspect, in illusion warfare aspect, the alternative media, who are simply saying the contrary to what the mainstream media are saying, doesn't really matter, because they're still diverting, observer effect, they're still diverting eyes to the event in question. Yeah? Just simply saying it's fake doesn't really change anything, because you saying it's fake, or them, the alternative media, saying it's fake, is just the same as the mainstream media saying it's real. All you're doing is still diverting eyes upon the event, but more importantly, you're making people picture that event in the theatre of their mind. People thinking it's fake doesn't really change anything, because you're still giving time, energy, and attention to this event in question, instead of using the theatre of your mind to create your own reality, or reality that is better for everyone. You get what I'm saying? I don't know. One of these things, like in my, I think this is really simple stuff, but when you try and talk about it using the English language, it's quite hard. So I don't know. Maybe I've done a good job of explaining this. Maybe I've done a terrible job of explaining this. But it has to be said, yeah? The alternative media is just as bad as the mainstream media, yeah? It's a double cross system, isn't it? Here's the mainstream media, here's the alternative media. Here's the conservatives, here's the liberals. Here's the Christians, here's the Muslims. Here's the Western world, here's the Middle Eastern world. Yeah? Here's the gays, the straights, the blacks, the whites. Do you understand? You're all just taking part in the double cross system, which of course is being created by the hidden hand, which of course wastes your time. Here's the black cube. Yeah? Chronos, the god of time. Your time is being wasted by the hidden hand as you partake in a double cross system which is being pushed forward by the internet to puppeteer you around on the world stage. Yeah, that's why I created this symbol. It's as simple as that, yeah? So these podcasters, the alternative podcasters that claim to be like challenging the mainstream, fighting the mainstream and seeking truth, they're actually not doing that. They're actually doing exactly the same thing as the mainstream media. They're just doing it from a different angle. They're creating a magic circle around the event to which people are giving their time, energy and attention to it, and thus fanning the flames of the false reality and making it grow. We live in a twilight world. There are no friends at dusk.